Week 1 is here, finally, Shane. It's time to get the ball in the air and get the season underway.
Yeah.
Got some good matchups here coming this week, but we've already previewed where we thought the Northwest and the Upstate divisions would land. Granted, there's a couple teams in the mix that we can see doing better than where we predicted them at as well.
Right. Predictions are just that. You don't really know until the games start. A lot of teams will find out a lot about them here in the first week already. I mean, some teams generally take a while to get going. Week 1 should tell us a lot about more of my feeling of the Upstate side than the Northwest side myself.
Right, and I mean, it's one of those things, too. You get the season going, and once it gets kicked off, I mean, from here on out, every game moving forward is a playoff game.
Right.
And for a lot of these teams, Week 1 could be that make it or break it type week. I mean, you look at some of the matchups we're going to have this week, Polo and Orangeville. That could swing either way yet. Granted, we have a favorite there as we predicted Orangeville in our preseason video to be that team.
Yep.
But, you can't discount Polo yet either. They still have a lot of talent coming back, and they should still be very competitive even though this is their last year in the NUIC.
Right, and then on the Northwest side, you got some questions to answer. How far Forreston's going to drop. They're taking on Du-Pec. How much improved Du-Pec is. Whether Lena Winslow looks like a team that we think they are. I mean, all the way down to a winless Galena team last year who we think has greatly improved. So, I mean, I'm pretty excited about this week. We've been waiting a long time to get it going. It's finally here to get going.
I know you take a step back and you look at when we started putting out all of the information this year, and it's already been going on for a month now, almost.
Right.
So here we are. It's time to kick off the season. First matchup we're going to talk about tonight is River Ridge at AFC. Shane, last year River Ridge finished with a 2-7 record, while AFC finished at 3-6. This game is a repeat of last year as well, where it took place in Week 1. AFC won this game 19-6. You take a look forward to this year, and River Ridge has 35 kids out this year compared to AFC only having 25 kids out. What do you think is going to need to happen for these two teams to take that first step forward and get a victory in Week 1?
Well, for me, River Ridge it's pretty simple. I mean, it's easier said than done, but look at what River Ridge returns. I mean, a huge chunk of yardage. One of the best quarterbacks in the conference returns. And you go back to last year, that's a game that River Ridge probably feels like they should have came away with a win. Well, you finally get a chance to maybe right the ship here. River Ridge is a team we talked about in the preseason. Like, what are they going to be? This is a game that, looking at the schedule, if you're River Ridge, you got to have this game right out the bat to get things going the right way.
Right, exactly. I mean, and that quarterback that you're talking about is Jacob Spear. He does return with the most passing yardage in the career in the conference this year. With him, you're going to have receivers Cam Kiley and Wyatt Potter and Drew Kloss as well, and then you got Ben Christ in the backfield. So he's got a good complement of skill players, and you heard Coach Nicholas say that they have great skill set players. Their question is going to come on line play, and they got the linemen there. It's just, can they come off the ball? Can they stay physical? And can River Ridge finish games this year?
Right.
Last year, they were in 8 of their 9 contests within the third quarter, and they lost them in the fourth quarter. Can they play a 4-quarter ball game to get those W's this year?
Right, and if they do play 4 quarters, you're going to see a 2-7 turn into a much more favorable record. I mean, yeah, you play 8 out of 9 games that close. It's hard not to look and think, man, if we'd have done this different or that different, we probably could have walked away with a win. So, for me, it's pretty simple. It comes down to what River Ridge is able to do. Unfortunately, AFC is one of those teams where, yeah, they don't have a lot of kids out in what they do return, but for me, I like River Ridge in this contest.
Right. I mean, you look at AFC, and, I mean, they got Caleb McBride back, Cam Thomas, Matt Thompson. Ethan Drew's going to be their quarterback this year. He's only a junior. And you got Marcus Cater, along with a few others that can help complement him, too. And, I mean, you looked at what Coach Winterland did last year. He runs a lot of rocket jet sweeps out of a double wing. And he's going to be running that same style offense again this year. It's not so much of an offense that can help them against bigger sized teams per se, unless they can find a way to get their line to move and get the blocks that they need to open up the holes as well.
Right. I mean, you got to have everything set in pretty good condition before you think about that being effective.
So, Shane, who's your pick for this matchup?
I like River Ridge for sure.
I do too. I mean, like you stated, we see River Ridge being much more improved with the amount of talent they have coming back. Not saying that the Raiders don't have talent coming back. They do.
Right, and I anticipate a close game.
Yeah, I can definitely see this game being a battle all 4 quarters. But I do like the Wildcats in this matchup too. Warren at Stockton. Shane, last year Warren went 1-7. They forfeited their Week 7 matchup with Lena Winslow.
Right.
And then Stockton finished off the year with an 8-3 record after they went undefeated in the Upstate, winning their 6th conference title, just to lose to Aquin in the second round in a very exciting ball game that was in Stockton that day. Last year Stockton won this game 43-0. I don't anticipate much being different this year. You got a new quarterback for Stockton this year in Garrett Buskey. Garrett can throw the ball. He's gotten a little bit bigger over the last 2 years, which is definitely something that needed to happen. But when you got Colin Dvorak and Chase Rowe back in the backfield again, and you got good tight ends with Drew McGovern and Drake Oppold, all you got to do is get the offensive line going.
Right, and for a matchup like this, I don't anticipate many problems of Stockton having that. I mean, Dvorak's going to carry the ball 40 times a game. I mean, this isn't a secret by any stretch of the imagination. That's what Stockton's going to do, and that's going to be their game plan against Warren. That's going to be their game plan against everybody.
No, I agree with you there. And you got Matt Love returning on the offensive and defensive lines, where last year he was an all-conference member as well. So if they can build around that offensive line, which I expect Coach Snyder to have his team playing much more physical than what we've seen Stockton playing the last couple of years, this could definitely lead to bigger things for Stockton come playoff time.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, you and I have picked Milledgeville to win the conference, but, talking to a lot of people say, well, we like Stockton, and, I mean, for the reasons you just listed, I mean, if the offense gets the pieces moving in the right direction, this could be a dangerous crew out there.
Right. We have Stockton right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. I mean, that game could definitely be a toss-up, in which that game would take place in Week 3. And that's going to be in Stockton as well. So that's going to be a highly anticipated matchup. But obviously Stockton's got to focus on Week 1 and 2, which should be in their favor both weeks, as they start off with Warren here and then South Beloit. But let's not count out Warren just yet. I mean, Coach Teskey has stated that they're going to be low on numbers, but they want to look to be competitive, with this being their last game in the NUIC as they go up to Blackhawk next year. And they return some good kids. I mean, you got Ethan Williams and Garrett Williams back, which will help on the offensive side and the defensive side of the balls. You got a good receiver in Andrew Schlickenmeyer and Brady Cox, and then you still got Ryan Molitor as well. So it just comes down, where can they put the youth on the line? And that's going to be their problem, is they're going to have a lot of underclassmen playing on the line.
Right. And, I mean, it is unfortunate that we're losing a school to a co-op that's no longer going to be in our coverage. But, this is a school that made the playoffs not that far ago. So, under McNutt and whatnot. So, I mean, Warren got a win last year, went 1-7. Looking at as far as their season is going in this game, it's going to be hard for Warren for the reasons you listed. I mean, the numbers are low, but they do have some kids that are going to contribute. And, that'll be a good co-op for them next year. So get the kids the playing time, improve them so that they are able to contribute next year.
Right, and I think, looking at Warren moving in with Blackhawk, I think they will be good contributors. And quite honestly, with their numbers problem, it's the right move for them.
Yeah.
But, like Sean Teskey said, I mean, hopefully Warren does do exactly what he's hoping they do, and that's play competitive and go out and make it a great last season in the NUIC.
Right, and nobody wants to be a laughing stock, so I totally agree with that.
Right. But, as you, I'm taking Stockton. All right, we have Aquin at Hiawatha, Shane, and last year these two teams met up in week 1. This one, last year it was played at Aquin. It was a game that, we anticipated Aquin coming out with a big win.
Yeah.
But they had 5 turnovers in the second quarter, and the game was much closer at halftime, but in the second half, Aquin cruised to that 27-7 win last year. Aquin finished the season at 9-3, losing in the quarterfinals to Lena Winslow. However, Hiawatha finished with that 5-4 record, and because of some crossover games that Warren beat South Beloit in, and with Aquin beating Hiawatha, and Orangeville beating Hiawatha, and then you had Lena Winslow beating Mooseheart, that kept Hiawatha out of the playoffs because of the low playoff points.
Right. And, that's a chance you get every time you go 5-4, where you got to rely on other players or other teams to get you in. But, for Aquin, that was a surprise last year, winning 27-7. That was a game that everybody looked at and said, okay, easy win, get the starters out. But that wasn't the case. And, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out this year. There's a lot of, I don't know how to say it exactly. There's a lot of chatter as far as what Aquin thinks they're going to be and what they're going to be. So I think this is an interesting matchup.
It is. Obviously, both teams return quite a bit of talent. Aquin's is going to be new talent to the table, where Hiawatha brings back some talent that played last year as sophomores and juniors. If you take a look, they have Logan Marshall back at wide receiver. Ty Kilcullen is still back at quarterback. You got Austin Sunderlage back and Miguel Devel on the offensive and defensive line. So, or at linebacker, I mean. But there's still going to be a competitive group. And, I mean, Hiawatha is still one of those teams playing in the Northeast Athletic Conference. They could get enough wins and make a case for the playoffs, which this game really benefits Aquin for playoff point purposes.
Right, and that'll help the whole Upstate, too. Let's not dismiss that yet, too. So, I mean, when both teams are returning a lot of players like this, and Aquin's being younger, I mean, it comes down to, can Hiawatha close that 27-7 gap? I think they can close it. It's just how close it's going to be.
Right. I mean, because you look at quarterbacks, you lost Jonah Deemer, who was a heck of a quarterback in the NUIC, had a lot of yardage through his career, one of the more elite quarterbacks to come out of the NUIC in quite some time, outside of Hayden Fox the year before. But you take a look at what else they have. I mean, you got Will Gustafson there this year. He's only a sophomore. He did see some playing time at the varsity level in the playoffs, but not at quarterback. You got Patrick Cease back. He's a senior this year playing at defensive end, and he'll be playing at a tight end / split end type position. You got Ty Steekel back, Brennan Carlson back, and then they add in Andrew Bowman. And then you got some good guys on the line, too. You got Tyler Geiken is there. Zeke Barr's going to be back, but I'm not sure how much playing time he's going to get. I mean, I would assume he should get a lot, being that he is a senior and he's got good size. But they got some really good underclassmen talent at the sophomore and junior levels that, yes, we may have picked them to be 4 and 5, but they could definitely teeter into that playoff role as well.
Right, and they've kind of embraced the whole underdog thing, but looking at their schedule out the bat, their first 3 games, I mean, the schedule couldn't get any cushier than what it'll be for Aquin, so the whole underdog role isn't really going to be tested until, they move closer to that week 4 or 5 game matchup with Forreston. So, I mean, for me, this is a game that Aquin should win.
Well, and you're right. I mean, you take a look at the first 4 games, and, I mean, first 3, they should be 3-0.
Right.
Then they have Polo in week 4. That should be in favor of Aquin.
Right.
But then, yes, then you start to the trend of the harder type schedule.
It's
With Forreston,
their schedule's
Orangeville's going to be
backloaded.
better. You got River Ridge that's going to be better, and then you finish off with Stockton and Milledgeville as well. But like you, I do like the Bulldogs in this week 1 matchup. We move to our crossover game where we have Amboy going to Milledgeville. Shane, last year Milledgeville won this game 14-6 in a very close ball game that we kind of anticipated it being. And honestly, I think we had both picked Amboy to win that game last year, if I remember correctly, only because of Amboy being in the northwest side of the conference.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, you look at Milledgeville; they went 8-3 and got throttled by Galena Winslow in the playoffs, and you had Amboy at 3-6. I mean, if you haven't been paying attention for the last 3 years that we've been doing this, we've said there's complete power change between the two sides of the conference, and if this isn't enough evidence, I don't know what is.
Well, I mean,
because you look at where Amboy finished and where Milledgeville finished, and to play that close.
Well, and you look at some of the other crossover games too, and I mean, you take even the upper echelon teams like Aquin, they got throttled by Forreston, they got throttled by Galena Winslow, but then you take a look too, everybody got throttled by Galena Winslow and Forreston last year, except when they played each other.
Right.
Now, you take into respect if you put in an EPC in there, I mean, they did destroy a 5-4 Polo team that was on the cusp of making the playoffs as well. But Milledgeville won this game. I do think this will be another low-scoring affair because both teams are going to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. I mean, you look at Milledgeville, they bring back Carson Boyer, Nate Ron, you got Jacob Harchie, so there's your backfield. You got Jack Munns back at quarterback, and then Mason McKenna on the offensive and defensive lines. You add in guys like Thane Yingling and a few other cats that are there. I mean, they're returning 9 starters on both sides of the ball, so
essentially everyone. I mean,
yeah, they got everybody back.
18.
So there's no cause to say that Milledgeville can't win. I mean, their loss last year to Stockton was a very close ball game.
Right.
And then they also snuck one out over Orangeville, too. So, I mean, that's why we said there was a lot of competitiveness within the Upstate Conference last year. But against Aquin in Week 9, they laid the big egg when they lost 38-0.
Right.
So, I mean, you look at what Amboy has back. They have Jake Shaver back, Brady Becker. You got Hunter Zimmerly at quarterback, and then with Maverick Lindenmeyer and a few others on the offensive and defensive lines. Can Coach Jones get Amboy over the hump to start getting some more wins in the NUIC?
Well, and see, I kind of, you would pick the lower scoring game, and I think it could be a lower scoring game, but for me, I see a Milledgeville team that, like you said, is basically returning everybody. And so you got to look at, has Amboy closed the gap enough while Milledgeville has improved drastically? And I'm not seeing that yet at this point. So I could see Milledgeville not necessarily running away with the game, but I could see them definitely opening up a bigger than a 14-6 lead.
Yes, and I think you could see that happening. I mean, the one thing with Amboy is they may get destroyed in the Northwest Division, but they still play good football.
Right.
I mean, they attack the ball, which that's one of the big differences you see between the Northwest and the Upstate. Right. The Northwest side, so many more times, you see everybody attacking the ball, whereas on the Upstate side, you see 3 guys attacking the ball and everybody else is just standing around waiting to see what happens next.
Well, and that's why you could easily say, you plug Amboy in with the Upstate schedule, and they're a playoff team last year. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Right. I mean, but that's one thing I do like about Milledgeville, and I was really impressed with their game against A-Town in the first round of the playoffs. They came out and attacked, especially coming off that thumping that they got from Aquin. They came out ready, they were prepared, they were hitting from the onset, and they cruised to a victory in a game that was supposed to be relatively close.
Right.
But who's your pick this week?
I'm going to take Milledgeville at home.
Yeah, I like the Missiles as well, so maybe they can ring that bell, get the first W of the year. We're going to cross over to the northwest side of the conference, Shane, where we have Du-Pec traveling to Forreston. Last year, Forreston won this game in Pecatonica, 54-6. Du-Pec finished the season with a 1-8 record, getting that first win in Du-Pec history against Galena in Week 9. Forreston obviously finished the season with an 11-2 record as they lost in the semifinals to Lena Winslow, who eventually went on to win state. What do you see this matchup being this year? I don't think it's going to be that 54-6 debacle it was last year.
No, and something we've touched about 100 times on. Basically, it comes down to how much talent has Forreston lost. I mean, you look at what Forreston lost, and I mean that's a huge gap to overcome. With that being said, I mean they still do return Kelsey and Bodicher, but for me, those two were effective last year. How effective are they going to be this year with a completely different group than they had last year?
Well, and that's just it. I mean, so you got Garrett Bodiger back at the fullback, which is going to be huge for Forreston because, I mean, he's 230 pounds. So
yeah.
How many kids want to try and take down 230 pounds of muscle? You know, Evan Kelsey, obviously, he was a huge speed threat, but against Lena Winslow, where they matched up with Forreston, he was obviously very much shut down.
Right.
So where can he get that strength to go along with his speed to be similar to what Gavin Fox was for Forreston? Even AJ, I mean, AJ wasn't a very big guy, but he was fast, he was elusive, but he was strong himself.
Right.
And don't forget Ethan Mulder. I mean, he's back there too, so they're still going to have 3 solidified backs in the backfield. And with a new quarterback in Bailey Color, it's going to come down to familiarity with each other. And so far, granted it hasn't been against true competition, but so far they have gelled very well.
Right, and I mean that's important after losing a huge talent group like that. But on the other side of the ball, you also have a Du-Pec team that could look at a couple games last year and thought that they maybe should have won. They feel like they let that Amboy game get away. Their game against Madison, with all those happening with that situation, so to speak. And, you know, for Du-Pec, I don't think they're ready to play with the big boys yet, but they will be. This is a game that might be more something to talk about going into next year. However, I do find that Du-Pec will be more competitive than they were last year. I don't see a 54-6 game, and this could be a close game through the first quarter, maybe halftime before Forreston. I feel like we'll finally wear them down enough and run away. But I mean, you know, you're talking about a 230-pound fullback. I mean, Du-Pec's got a good fullback of their own,
Griffin Mulcahy, and he comes in at 250 pounds.
Right.
And then you add Caden Manning in the backfield. I mean, he's not big per se, but he's definitely gotten much stronger and has filled himself out quite a bit. And then he's got good speed to go along with it. So power and speed makes it a lethal combination.
Right.
You got Hunter Foster back, and then on the line you got Logan Canuti and Cody Richardson, along with the cast of others that can definitely get Du-Pec rolling in the right direction if they can pick up their physicality, which I very much think that they will. I mean, they've spent a lot of time in the weight room this summer, which is a great thing for Du-Pec. But you look back at Forreston, too, they got some good junior linemen coming up, too, with Kyler Henefeld and Zach Cederholm, and then you still got Mitchell Hines returning. I mean, Mitchell Hines is a 4-year starter, so you can't bypass that either.
No.
But you're right. I think this is definitely a good game to measure where Du-Pec has grown. And, I mean, last year we kept saying Du-Pec's coming. They're not here yet, but they're coming.
Right.
And this year is the next block to build on from where they were last year.
Well, that's just it. I mean, it's saying something. I mean, it's well known that maybe the best quarterback on the team isn't even going to see the field on the varsity level this year. So, I mean, that's something that Du-Pec has going for it moving forward next year.
Right. So, who's your pick?
Forreston at home.
I will take the Cardinals as well. East Dubuque at EPC. Last year, this was a game EPC won up in East Dubuque 56-7. East Dubuque finished the season 2-7, coming off of a season where they were 4-5, and we had expected a lot of improvements out of East Dubuque moving into the 2017 season just to see them slip backwards. In fact, honestly, their only game that they really showed up in against the top teams was that game against Dakota in week 4.
Right, and they looked like world beaters there. I mean, throwing the ball over the field. But, this is an EPC team where we're finally able to talk about a senior class that we've been talking about for 3 years now. All the hype that they've gotten. I mean, where EPC ends up finishing is yet to be determined, but it's going to solely rely on that senior class.
Yes, it will. And with the change in coaching, you got McNutt in there now, and Coach McNutt likes to throw the ball. I mean,
you don't set records in college and not throw the ball.
Right, exactly. And I think it's definitely a direction the EPC needs to go. I mean, you got Braden Smart-Jesse at quarterback, and we know he can throw the ball.
Right.
And with guys like Lucas Peterson and Brock Smart-Jesse, and then you got Jaden and Jared Kemple out of the backfield, you got legit threats to throw to with targets that can score. You add in Braden Herron in there as well at the fullback position, and you got a lot of multiple options that EPC can run with these guys to help improve off that 5-5 record that they had last year that culminated in another first-round loss.
Right, and I've said this to you offset, so to speak. Any team that overlooks EPC this year is going to get beat by them, because this is a team that can be dangerous.
Yes, I definitely would agree with that. I mean, you got Wyatt Herman back on the line, Addison Keltner back on the line, Eli Dirt's back on the line. You got 3 dudes there that have 3+ years of starting experience there.
Exactly.
So what they just need to do, I mean, obviously Dirt's is the strongest one, and from my understanding is they're going to lose one of their key linemen for the season due to an injury, which is unfortunate already. However, they're still going to be very competitive. I mean, they got that drive in them. You look at East Dubuque, and they bring back John Breitbach at quarterback, Lane Boyer, tight end receiver, Hunter Sherman, and Ethan Mulgrew on the line. And you got some other guys that you can fill in around there as well. It's just, can they put it together this year as seniors and finally get back to where East Dubuque's been in the past? Granted, East Dubuque doesn't have a large history, but, you look at their last 5 years that they spent in the Upstate Conference, they were in the playoffs. They made back-to-back quarterfinal appearances, lost close competitions there. But since they've been in the Northwest side, the closest they come to kissing the playoffs was that 4-5 record 2 years ago.
Right. And, from my standpoint, it's not that East Dubuque. I mean, because, we both picked East Dubuque to be down on the Northwest side in the standings. And it's not that East Dubuque's digressing, so to speak. It's that the other teams are kind of up just a little bit more. I mean, you got a crossover in an Orangeville team that looks to be pretty good this year. A Galena team that is going to win some games this year. I mean, it's just that's the truth of it for East Dubuque, and I don't see it getting off to a good start against EPC. I like EPC big.
Yeah, I don't think that this game is going to go very well for EPC or for East Dubuque against EPC, especially with the fact with what EPC wants to prove, who they are.
I mean, this could be a huge statement game.
It could be, and I mean, EPC is one of those teams that we identified as a potential threat to play with Lena Winslow this year and contend for that Northwest title if they can get there. Yeah. So I like EPC. Dakota at Galena. Shane, last year this game was a 35-0 win for Dakota in week 1 in Dakota, and it was a game where we thought that Dakota was set to make a statement in 2017 to get playing with that upper echelon, but then we found that to be the other case once they hit weeks 3 and 9 against Forreston and Lena Winslow.
Like everybody else.
Right. But much worse.
Right.
95-7 to be exact. Not to throw it out there or anything, but 95-7.
Right.
That's a beating. Anyway, Dakota finished 7-3, losing in the first round of the playoffs to Princeville in that double overtime thriller that you attended, while Galena had their first winless season in school history, going 0-9. Galena's going to be a team to reckon with this year. I mean, I'm not looking for them to be a playoff contender just yet, but they're definitely going to be much improved from what we've seen out of them the last 2 years. They got a very good skill set with a good mix of juniors and seniors here, and they got some good sophomores coming up as well. That's really going to propel Galena in the right direction moving forward.
Right, and the big thing for Galena this year, it seems like they're actually buying in to the coach, which you haven't seen that for the last few years, which is just mind-boggling how you don't buy into a coach that's brought home state titles. I mean,
you got a whole coaching staff that has state titles.
I don't get it, but if this team buys in Freed's, system and plays as one, like you said, a much improved Galena team.
Well, we'll touch on Galena here. So, Galena in the past has been Galena. You've stated it in the Northwest Preview Show. Everybody's looking to be Galena 9-0, contending for a state title.
Right.
Well, when you get parents in the way who think that they're coaches and try to out-coach the coach from the sidelines, that creates turmoil.
Sit down.
And gives you a bunch of disruption.
Sit down and shut up.
Right, exactly. Let Coach Freed and his staff do the job. They're proven winners.
Yeah.
So, Galena's got a very good quarterback, which we mentioned in the Northwest Preview Show. I'm really impressed with this kid, Henry Anderson. I remember him being a backup last year as a sophomore, but this year is his year to shine, and like you said, he's taken commands from Coach Freed, and his direction and command of the huddle is just impressive, to say the least.
Right. It only takes one kid, especially from the quarterback position. If you have that leadership role as quarterback and you have the attention to the huddle, you improve drastically.
Right. And then you add in Connor Einsweiler back, Kyrian Duplessis is back, Damian Stephanopoulos is back, and then you got Mitchell Foley on the line. You get some other key guys around there, and you're going to see a more physical Galena team. But this is going to be a Galena team that's going to be good at passing, and they're going up against a Dakota team whose demise the last few years has been their pass defense.
Right, and that'll be a huge sticking point for this Dakota team. Has the pass defense improved? Because they got absolutely torched last year. East Dubuque chewed them up. Lena Winslow chewed them up, spit them out. If you can't defend the pass on what little teams are passing against you, you'll have problems all night long.
Right. So you look at Dakota, they bring back their workhorse and Trey Engelbrecht. You got Aiden Castee back. Evan Riggle is back. He's only a junior, however. You got Josh Clark as a junior taking over the reins at QB. Carter Drake is back at that tight end, defensive end as a senior. And you got Ryan Binger back on the offensive line and linebacker positions as well.
Basically, any key contributor from last season is back for Dakota this year, and that's why they have such high expectations.
Right. And they're much more fundamentally sound. They're going to be doing some new things in the offense and not so much the defense, but more of the offensive sides. That should benefit how they move the ball down the field.
Right.
And, Coach Freeze really put his stamp on Dakota football.
Right. He has, and it took a while to get away from what was in place before him, unfortunately.
Your pick.
Dakota.
I like the Indians as well. Our Upstate game of the week is going to feature Polo at Orangeville. Shane, last year both teams finished 5-4, but it was Orangeville who made the playoffs with playoff points, losing in the first round to Anawan Wethersfield in what was a very close game in the first half, but AW took control in the second half with Ben Burrish. When Orangeville had no answers there. However, last year, Polo won this game in week 1, 20-12. And Polo brings back, they still have athletes. I mean, you still got Braden Solto back. You got Brady Webb back. Ethan Phillips is back. You got Dravin Wells back on the offensive line and the defensive line.
Yep.
So, like we stated in the introduction, I mean, Polo still has a team. There's still going to be a team to be reckoned with, despite the fact that we collectively have them picked to go 3-6 this year.
Right, and I mean, another factor, their last season before going 8-man, I mean, these kids are really driven. Like, hey, we're the last hurrah here, let's give them something to be proud of. We've heard from some of the old Polo faithful in the last week or so. I mean, they're a proud football town. So, I mean, I don't see that going away here. And, something that we haven't touched. Like, I have Polo at 4 wins, you have them at 3. So, I mean, for me, this team has to win against Orangeville, and vice versa. Orangeville has to beat Polo. I mean, you're literally talking a must-win game here for both these teams, and we're not even started yet.
Right. Well, and that's where we said in the introduction, some teams are facing that must-win game.
Well, here it is.
Getting out of the gates, and here's the first inclination to that. So, I mean, you look at Orangeville, they got Carter Kleckler back at the quarterback position. They're going to bring Garrett Rodeball, Dalton Lowe back at the running back positions. You got Braden Schofield back at his end position. Brandon Rates is also back in the backfield. And then you got Talon Pelican on the line. And you add in a few others like a Noah Ashe. Orangeville's got the makings for big things this year.
Right. And, not a lot of people are talking about it, which I'm sure Coach Doyle's more than happy to be okay with,
Well, if you know Coach Doyle, you're definitely right. He's going to want to sit quiet as long as possible. He takes that from the old school.
What a true underdog does. They don't talk about it.
Right, exactly. But, one of the things that Orangeville is going to do, too, is they're going to go away from the O on their helmet, which I really like the O. Yeah. I thought it was a very nice, clean look. But they're going to go back old school. They're going back to the old Mustang from the late 90s era. And that's something I thought was really cool. Coach Doyle had stated that the seniors wanted to pick that.
Right.
And I like the homage being paid to the old school, similar to what Dakota's doing, putting the spear back in the helmet. Granted, it's a little bit different than what we're used to, where Orangeville's literally going back to their old logo.
Right. Pretty cool stuff. I mean, this group of kids wants to set their own path forward, and I applaud them for that. I mean, we touched in on that interview. Have you ever remind the kids, that this could be our first back-to-back trip, and, they're worried about setting their own path forward.
Right. I mean, they were oblivious to the fact that it was Coach Doyle and Coach Guy was the last team to get back-to-back playoff appearances for the Broncos back in 95 and 96. But,
and another thing, I mean, at Orangeville on Saturday, this is kind of that pre-playoff feel, playing in the daylight,
It is. And I think Coach Doyle, I know for a fact, loves that because, last year they scheduled that Saturday game with Hiawatha, wanting the kids to get used to playing on Saturdays. Now they're going to have 5 Saturday games out of their 9 games this year. 4 home and 1 on the road down when they played Toledo Cumberland in Week 7. So, I mean, they got the right path going here. And this is a game that a lot of area people, if they want to see what's going on, this is a great time to get out and look and see what Orangeville is, what Polo's going to be. I mean, I can definitely expect to see a lot of teams from the area come in to watch this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But who you got in this game?
I'm going to take the Broncos at home.
I do also think Orangeville will get back their win. Polo has won 9 of the last contests these two have faced since the alignment of the Upstate, so it's the Broncos' turn. Our Northwest preview is going to feature Lena Winslow at West Carroll. Cue the motorcycles in Savannah. Get the fireworks ready because this is going to be a show. Last year, Lena Winslow won this game 34-20, but the game was actually further apart than what the final score indicated, as Lena Winslow had gone up 34-8 or 26-8 before it became the 34-20 game that it was. But it was also a game where, as history has shown, Lena Winslow had gotten off to another slow start, but it culminated in a 14-0 season with the state title.
Right. And something to touch on, you know, the last 2 state championships have come from the NUIC Northwest in 1A. And what is the one question and one answer been? What team helped prepare you to get to this point? And both coaches said West Carroll. So, I mean, that tells you where West Carroll's at, where they've been, and where they've been trying to get to.
Right. I mean, you look at where West Carroll finished. They were 7-4. They lost to the eventual 2A state champions in Gibson City, Melvin Sibley, 24-6, in what was a very close ball game in a wet Savannah Saturday afternoon.
Right.
And they gave them a game. In fact, so much so that their stud running back even stated that who was the one team that was the hardest. And he said West Carroll because of how physical they were and that they kept fighting and never stopped coming. If West Carroll takes that mindset into every game they play this year, they're going to be much better than the 5-4 record we predicted them to be at.
Right. I mean, they do lose a lot from last year's team. It's just whether or not they're going to be able to plug the holes, in which Leisen has a good system going, and I don't doubt that they will.
You're right. I mean, Leisen has done great things at West Carroll. This is the year that's going to prove how far he has come in building that program. It's his 4th year as he takes over. And he's got good players to build upon. He's got Derek Tracy coming in at quarterback. He's a junior, so he's been an understudy to Plattenberger the last few years. But he's got a good arm, and he's going to be able to spread the ball out within the system that West Carroll runs. You got Chance Williams coming back. He'll be a senior this year at the wide receiver position. Then you got Cody Sipe coming in at fullback. He's only a junior as well, but he's going to add some size and speed and strength to that as well. Cody Scheider's back on the line. You got Michael Popkin back at a receiver position, and you got Carson Rice as well. You got options both offensively and defensively, and I expect this to be a very tough defensive team, similar to what we've seen. Fast to the ball, attack, and play within yourselves.
Absolutely, and I mean, we wouldn't really expect anything different at this point. And then on the other side of the ball, I mean, we've given them a lot of coverage through the preview and whatnot, and, you know, I mean, what can we say about Lena Winslow? I mean, you know.
Well, I mean, they are the returning state champs. They do return a lot, but at the same token, they lose a lot. I mean, you lose Ty Crispin at quarterback. He was very underrated, but that is a kid that embraced the role of playing Lena Winslow QB and stepped up big time and played like he had ice in the veins.
Right, and not to mention his impact on the defensive side of the ball as well.
Right. Of course, you lose the conference's all-time leading rusher in Ravion Valentine. But when you got Isaiah Bruce coming back, Ian Keel's back, Parker McGee's back, Keegan Jalen's back, you got Cade Benson who's stepping into the quarterback role. And then, you know, a kid that we did not mention, and I feel bad for it because I had him on my player to watch list, but I never brought him up in the Northwest preview, is Braden Almasy. And that kid is going to be lethal on the offensive line. And he very well could be the one who replaces Michael Jones on that vaunted defensive line.
Right, and if they can replace Jones, they're going to be pretty well off, regardless of what they have in the backfield. And Orangeville, I mean, to me, was very underrated last year and could be their number one player this year.
Well, it's pretty good feat when, as a sophomore, you make it on our player to watch list. And Ormiston was on our player to watch list. And you're right, he came out with a big season. I mean, he complimented Rob very well. I mean, he ran for 1,200 yards and that's a great year.
Right.
He ran over 1,000 yards. It wasn't 1,200. It was 1,039. I'm sorry. But still, that's a great year.
Right.
Considering that outside of Valentine, who had over 2,000 yards, the next closest was Dvorak at 1,200.
With a lot more carries.
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah, you have to replace a lot, but Lena Winslow has a lot to replace him with. However, from year to year, I'm not sold that Lena Winslow team from this year will match up to last year's team collectively.
No, it's going to be tough. It is going to be a challenge. Are they going to be a title threat contender again? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. But are they going to let it go to their heads, or are they going to take that target on their back and wear it with honor?
Right, and the big thing for Lena Winslow, and you talk to some of their players, and you think they're where they need to be. I mean, last year happened. It's great. That was last year. You got to move forward. You have a good West Carroll team that you're going there to play. Lena Winslow generally starts slow. If you're West Carroll and you feel pretty good about your team this year on filling the holes you have, maybe this is an opportunity to get Lena Winslow, hit them in the mouth before they even know what hit them, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you got to come out and do what EPC did to them 2 years ago. Just smack them right off the ball. Give them a wake-up call. Show them, hey, we're the West Carroll Thunder, man. We're here to play, and we're going to kick your tails tonight.
Right.
You do that, and you're going to be in that ball game. Because the team that does that is the team that's going to upend Lena Winslow this year. You got to match their tenacity. If you can't come out and match up with that, you're going to lose before you ever get off the bus.
Right.
And you might as well not show it up.
Yep. The team that isn't afraid of Lena Winslow will give them a game this year.
Right. Exactly.
That being said, I like Lena Winslow in this game, though.
I do too. And, I mean, you look at the history. The last time West Carroll beat Lena Winslow was in their first year of being West Carroll, which was 2005. Since then, Lena Winslow has punched off 12 straight wins. And don't forget that 2005 Lena Winslow team was a quarterfinal team that lost to the state champs by 10 points.
Right.
But I like the Panthers in this game. I just think it'll be closer than people think. Our NUIC Power 5. This is something in the past that we've rolled out in either week 5 or week 3. But this year, we are bringing it out as a preseason, moving forward type thing.
Everybody else has a preseason ranking. Why not us?
Right. So, we're going to give you our Power 5. And then we'll give you our panel Power 5. I'll go ahead and start, Shane. So, obviously, at number 1, I'm starting off with our reigning state champions, the Lena Winslow Panthers. 14-0 last year. Bring back a good amount of kids from that state championship team. There's no reason why they should not be number 1, at least to start the season. At number 2, I have the Dakota Indians, and this may be a surprise to some, but there again, this is a team that is bringing back a lot of kids from last year's first-round loss, who we both agree, had they got past that first-round game, they're the ones in the quarterfinals getting blown away by Forreston instead of Princeville.
God.
Number 3, I got EPC. The Wildcats, I expect them to be much stronger this year. Last year, I think I had them at number 5. At one point, I even dropped them out because of their record and the way they played. This year, I got them starting at number 3. I expect a big season out of EPC under a new head coach, Jared McNutt. Number 4, I have the Forreston Cardinals. Forreston lost a lot, but with it, they get Kyle Zick as their head coach, who's going to keep the Forreston train rolling. There's not a lot that's going to change. I still expect Forreston to be the best conditioned team in the conference. With that, they're going to get wins in games that they should get wins in. And rounding out my Power 5, I had the Milledgeville Missiles. Milledgeville came off that 8-3 season last year. They return a plethora of players again. I expect a strong season out of the Missiles this year.
Right, and if you want to know my Power 5, you just rewind that last minute and play it again. Me and Kyle have the same Power 5. Lena Winslow, Dakota, EPC, Forreston, and Milledgeville. Kind of funny how we came to that. We did not coordinate that.
No.
But obviously,
I didn't talk to you about it, just asked you for it.
Right. I think I just shot you a text one day and was like, here's my Power 5. Yeah, you got the state champs coming back with a lot. setting up a good matchup in week 9 for Dakota and them. EPC kind of flying under the radar a little bit. Anybody takes them light, they're going to get beat. You know, Forreston, like you said, loses a lot. How much, we'll find out. I mean, they were still good. I mean, you can lose a lot from that team and still be good.
Right.
So, and Milledgeville, you know, what I see to be the top team coming out of the Upstate.
So then we'll give you Carrie's Power 5 as well, as she is a part of our panel Power 5. And at number 1, she also has Lena Winslow. Coming at number 2, she has the Dakota Indians. At number 3, she put a lot of stock in Milledgeville. She's got Milledgeville coming at number 3. That's because of their strong season, like we've already stated. From a year ago, with a lot of returners, they should be at the top of the Upstate Conference. Number 4, she has the EPC Wildcats. And rounding out her Power 5 are the Stockton Blackhawks. Once again, Stockton is going to be a team that you cannot go wrong with, like you just stated. And they're going to be right there in the mix of things in the Upstate Conference. And with Coach Snyder at the helm, anything's possible as these boys are buying in already what he's doing there. So that'll take us to our panel Power 5, and it's going to be a little bit different. At number 1 is the Lena Winslow Panthers. Number 2 are the Dakota Indians. At number 3 are the EPC Wildcats. Number 4 are the Milledgeville Missiles. And rounding out the NUIC Power 5 for the preseason are the Forreston Cardinals. Our state predictions for the state rankings. It's about that time to roll out our preseason picks. So we'll start in Class 1A and then we'll roll into Class 2A.
And these predictions really don't hold water yet, so
they don't hold water. Right, exactly. They don't hold a lot of water, but they're just out of teams who we expect to do good things in 2018 based off of what they have coming back and what they did last year. So I'll start in Class 1A. At number 1, I have GCMS as they're defending Class 2A state champs. At number 2, I have the Lena Winslow Panthers as they are the Class 1A defending champs. Number 3, I have Aurora Christian. And number 4, I have the Tuscola Warriors. Number 5 are the Athens Warriors. At number 6, I have the Princes of Princeville. Coming at number 7, I have Dakota. At number 8, the Marquette Crusaders. At number 9, the Forreston Cardinals. And at number 10, I have Red Hill. In my honorable mention for 1A from the NUIC, I have Milledgeville.
Very nice, Kyle. My number 1 team will be Lena Winslow. Kind of hard to bump them, even though GCMS is coming into 1A this year. Followed by number 2, Tuscola, the team that Lena Winslow beat in the title game. GCMS at number 3, Aurora Christian at 4. Ottawa Marquette up a little higher than Kyle's at number 5, followed by Athens at 6. Then Princeville ahead of Dakota at 7 and 8. Then my number 9 team, Carrollton, and number 10, Argenta, Oregon. And like Kyle, outside of the top 10, I have a couple teams outside of the top 10, not in the way you list them, but I have Forreston at number 11 and the number 14 team in the state, the Milledgeville Missiles.
Very good, Shane. So our panel vote, which includes mine, Shane, and Carrie's votes. At number 1, we have the Lena Winslow Panthers, obviously the defending state champs in Class 1A. And at number 2 are the GCMS Falcons, as they are defending Class 2A champs. And they're in our 1A poll because we expect them at a 312 enrollment to fall into 1A. And number 3, we have Aurora Christian, as they're going to drop into 1A, get in the waiver roll after their first round loss last year, which is 4 consecutive first round exits or no playoff appearances.
Everybody needs a medal.
Everybody needs a medal. Number 4, Tuscola. They're going to be loaded once again this year. And number 5 is Athens, always strong coming out of the Sangamo Conference. Number 6 is Princeville. They should do big things in the Lincoln Trail, as I expect the Lincoln Trail Conference to be somewhat down from what they've been in the past. Number 7, we have Dakota. At number 8 is Ottawa Marquette. And this is a team that we could definitely see being, 8-1, 9-0, entering the playoffs. They're definitely going to be good. They could potentially even be higher up in the list. Number 9 is Forreston, and at number 10 is Red Hill. In our honorable mention at number 14 is the Milledgeville Missiles. Alright, our Class 2A projections. At number 1, I have Maroa Forsyth as they come back as the back-to-back state runner-up. At number 2, I have Chicago Hope. They should have a good class there that will definitely get them going forward. Number 3, Orion. At number 4, St. Teresa as they're going to drop into 2A. Number 5, the always tough Sterling Newman Comets. Number 6, I have Tri-Valley. At number 7, I have Rock Ridge. At number 8 is West Hancock. Coming at number 9, I have Bismarck Henning. And rounding out my top 10 is Pana as they also drop into 2A this year. In my honorable mention for the NUIC, I have EPC at number 13, followed by West Carroll at number 14.
Very good, Kyle. Pretty sure our top 10s have the same schools, except it's just in a little bit different order. Like you, I like Maroa Forsyth at the top, followed by Sterling Newman. Number 3, Chicago Hope, followed by 4 at Orion. St. Teresa back in 2A in the number 5 spot, followed by 6, Rock Ridge. 7, Tri-Valley. 8, West Hancock. 9, Pana. And 10, Bismarck Henning. In the number 12 spot, I like the EPC Wildcats, and the 13th spot, the West Carroll Thunder.
Good job, Shane. Our panel vote is going to go such. At number 1 is Maroa Forsyth. At number 2 is Chicago Hope. At number 3 is Sterling Newman. At number 4, the Chargers of Orion. Number 5, St. Teresa in Jacardi, right? At number 6, Tri-Valley. Number 7, the Rock Ridge Rockets. Number 8 is West Hancock. Number 9 is Bismarck Henning. Rounding out our top 10 is Pana. As I already mentioned, they're dropping into 2A this year. In our honorable mention, we have EPC at number 12 and West Carroll at number 14. Well, that's a look into our NUIC Power 5, our state rankings, as well as our Week 1 outlook and predictions. Shane, there should be a lot of good games this week. Granted, there's a lot of games, too, that will probably go very much as said.
Yeah, I mean, we generally have that week in, week out. You're going to always have your games where you're going to want to be at, and you're going to have your games where you know how it's going to go, and you can kind of write the recap before the game even kicks off.
Correct. So, it should be another great season in the NUIC. Obviously, we both see the NUIC being a little bit down from where we've had them the past couple of years, but we still have a state title contender that we very much see in there, along with a couple others that can definitely make some noise if they can get up to that level and play at that level. Overall, should be a great week of games, so get out to the games on Friday nights. It's the first game of the season. And if you're available on Saturday, get over to Orangeville and watch them take on Polo as well for our Upstate Game of the Week. As always, root for the NUIC.